Nano Machine. By Hanjung Weolya. Chapter 41, Defeat an Instructor, Part 1. Cadets from the high-ranked clans were smiling. They were certain that the third test would be held just like how their family members had told them. Left Guardian Li Hamming kept on explaining. For 12 to complete a sword formation, you must have top-class martial arts skill. People were shocked and began talking amongst themselves even more. Top class? How many are they trying to drop? Damn it. As the cadets began get noisy, Hamming shouted, "Silence." The training ground immediately became silent. Hamming frowned as he continued. "Do you see the books on the table? Motto. This is the 7 Demon Dragon book, one of the top-class martial arts that will be the foundation to the sword demon formation of our cult." The cadets then became excited immediately. This was a dream come true for the cadets from weaker clans. It wasn't common for them to come across a chance to learn a top-class martial art. If you absorb the Black Dragon Ball given out today and learn this 7 demon sword formation, you will be able to have a top-class martial arts skill in no time. Chun Yowen nodded. Even if the test was supposed to be harder, they weren't going to make it way too hard. That sounds easy until now. If what Yumpa said was right, then this was only a prerequisite. Li Hamming grinned as he continued, "The third test will take place exactly 4 weeks from today." The students then turned grim. That wasn't too long. They needed to learn the 7 demon sword and group up with others to form a formation, and 2 weeks was too short for it. However, the real challenge had yet to come. So, the 12 of you will form a sword formation and you have to defeat the instructor you see up on the stage. Isn't it simple? Hamming spoke casually as he pointed to the 36 instructors lined up on the stage. As simple? What? All of those instructors were those at the level of squad leaders who were at least at the masters of martial arts. Some were even at the limit of the master level. This wasn't an easy test. Damn it. I wondered why it was so easy. Many cadets turned pale. They weren't sure if they can defeat such powerful instructors. It is as Yumpa said. What's left now is to choose the leader. As Yumpa had foretold, they were given a goal to overcome. It became harder since they weren't fighting against each other, but it wasn't all that impossible either. Total of 7. That's how many people Yowen now needed. After passing the second test, Yowen had 7 people who were friendly toward him. So, he called them up with Hubong last night to share the information about the third test information and offered them to join his team. "I'm sorry, if it's for the test, I won't join." "I'm sorry, Prince." Yowen had expected all of them to join him as he had shown strength and leadership in the second test, but 4 of them refused, saying that they wanted to follow different leaders. "I still have 4. It wasn't too bad anyway." He had gotten 4 cadets on his team already. Yowen was thankful for their decision. He knew he had a different start line from the other princes, and since these cadets agreed to follow him, it was proof that they truly trusted Yowen. This test is different from the second one. Everything is up to you, cadets. You gather your group members and learn the formation. The cadets became confused. If the instructors weren't going to teach them, it meant that the leader would have to play a vital role. There is a total of 207 of you, so if you are divided into groups of 12, then there will be 17 groups. Huh? What happens to the 3 leftovers? The cadets then realized that 3 people would be without a team. This meant that they needed to group up quickly or else they would not even be given a chance to take the test. Most of the explanation is done now. Now the leaders. Cadets who knew most of the information now turned to their group leaders up in the front line. From how things went on until now, it was likely that the current group leaders would be chosen to be leaders again. So, let's talk about how we will appoint a group leader, and I will dismiss you all with the Black Dragon Ball and the Book of the 7 Demon Sword. Huh? Some of the cadets were shocked. What he just said was that the academy was not appointing leaders by themselves. Do you see instructors with tags? The cadets turned to the instructors to see their tags. They hadn't noticed until now, but all of them had different colored tags. From a total of 36 cadets, many of them were yellow, and when counted, it came down to a total of 17 yellow tags. Whoever takes the yellow tag in 1 week will become a group leader. Impossible. The cadets grimaced. This was too hard of a challenge. The final test was to defeat the instructor, but needing to take the tag away from them was too much. This means that if there aren't that many who can take those tags, then we might not even have 17 groups. This had increased the difficulty of the test. Cadets wanted to raise an objection, but no one dared to do that. "Don't think it's too hard." Li Hamming spoke with a laugh. "Instructors with yellow tags will only fight you with the 7 demon sword, not their own specialized martial arts. If you can counter their 7-demon sword technique, you will get the tag. Even then, it still wasn't going to be easy. They were still up against experienced martial artists who had used those skills for a long time. However, there was a hidden factor here, and Chun Yo-won knew this. If a cadet can learn the sword in that short amount of time, it means he or she has greater knowledge about the sword formation. This wasn't just decided to make the test harder. As he thought, if the group leader knew how to counter the 7-demon sword technique used by the instructor, it meant that all the cadets would agree to follow the leader in learning the 7-demon sword. A week. But the time was too short. He. Lee Hemming looked amusingly at the cadets and gave an unexpected offer. You have a week left, but is there any cadet who wants to issue a challenge right now? No one had read the book of the 7-demon sword right now, but asking if anyone was up for challenge was like asking if there was anyone who was confident enough with their own skills to counter it. The crowd turned silent. No one dared to raise their hands. Most of them were still mediocre, and even those who achieved the level of top class couldn't dare to do such a thing. So, no one is that brave? Okay. Then. Lee Hemming seemed to be disappointed and tried to begin giving out the books and balls, but the crowd turned wild. Oh? Hemming was astonished. 3 group leaders raised their hands. It was Chun Myeon of the Wise clan, Chun Yo-won, and the 18th cadet who defeated Chun Jong-sum of the Poison clan to be the leader of his 12th group. This is interesting. Lee Hemming was deeply entertained. He thought Chun Myeon and Chun Yu-chan will volunteer, but his expectation was wrong. Chun Yu-chan simply stood back, watching what was happening casually. It was likely that Chun Mu-kyum would have volunteered also if he wasn't in the medical room. Baek-gi and Chun Yo-won. These two were the cadets who had showed excellence beyond expectation. Lee Hemming brought them forward. 3 group leaders from the second test. Sure, you should have that much of courage in you as a leader. Come to the front of the stage. The 3 leaders walked out. As they grouped up, Yo-won turned to Baek-gi who walked up on his right. Chun Myeon was famous, but he had only seen Baek-gi guide his formation. He had a long scar on his right eye. Ha, you look eager. So, who among you instructors will fight them? Lee Hemming laughed as he asked, and 7 of yellow tagged instructors walked up. It wasn't intended, but there were instructors from 1st, 8th and 12th group also. Chapter 42, Defeat an Instructor, Part 2. Lee Hemming frowned. He had told the instructors not to be too attached to their cadets, but it seemed they had already done so within 3 weeks. Phew. He couldn't scold them in front of all the cadets, but there was also an unexpected person within the 7 instructors. Oh? The instructors who walked up were also surprised. Then 3 of them then stepped back, deciding to not volunteer anymore. This instructor in his late 50s with a black beard with white hairs hinted here, and there was the oldest instructor here. Instructor Ho Jin-chong. He was the most experienced instructor at the early stage of the superior master level. He had been an instructor at the academy for a long time, and he was also a war veteran. Lee Hemming also respected him accordingly. Oh, if he's up, then I won't need to do this. Instructor Imping then looked at him and stood back. He didn't like Yo-won that much, but he was going to pay him back for helping out with the 8th group to pass the second test by challenging other challengers so that they couldn't become group leaders. But if Ho Jin-chong was here, then there was no need to help. The rest is up to you now, 7th cadet. Whoever's up here will not go easy on you. No one would challenge their own group's cadet to easily let them become the group leader. They all had similar thoughts as Imping. As the numbers were matched, Hemming said, we have enough then. So, let's start with the 1st cadet. Who will challenge him? I will do it, Chief. Ho Jin-chong was trying to volunteer when the 12th group leader Yushuan quickly raised his hand to intercept it. He dares. Ho Jin-chong frowned. He was interested in Chun Myeon, who was known to be the closest to being the next lord. He wanted to check on Myeon's talent himself, but he was too slow. I'm sorry, but you would have not gone easy on him. Yushuan also thought Chun Myeon was the right individual as the future lord, and didn't want him to be embarrassed here. Unlike his interest, Ho Jin-chong was not someone who would go easy on them. Ho Jin-chong then raised his hand and shouted at Lee Hemming, Chief. Then I will handle the 18th cadet. It almost made him laugh, but Hemming held back and agreed. You do that. Yushuan frowned. He tried to help guide Chun Myeon away from danger and got his own cadet, Baek-gi, in trouble instead. It was the price he paid for angering Ho Jin-chong. And as for Chun Yo-won, he was paired with Sang Myeoneo, the instructor of the 1st group. He was glad about the outcome since Sang Munyo wanted to fight Chun Yowon from the beginning. Two of you may begin first. Chun Muyin and Yushuan looked at each other, bowed, and readied their stances. As they were preparing, Chun Yowon's eyes shook and white lights lingered in them. Chun Muyin charged first. The Wise clan specialized in two martial arts techniques, the Wise Demon Sword, and the Flowing Cloud Palm. Good! Yushuan shouted. Even for the martial artists in the cult, it wasn't common for them to fight against the members of the 6 clans. He wanted to fight with his own martial arts, but he had to use the 7 Demon Sword, which was a downside. Yushuan used the defense formation, or the 5th sword, to defend. Chun Yowon narrowed his eyes. What? The movements were familiar, but he couldn't counter the formation just once. Chun Muyin then moved on to his next attack. Yushuan was astonished by the level of power. It seemed like he would lose if he underestimated Muyin. Let's not consider him as a cadet. Chun Muyin was already at the level of a squad leader. Yushuan unleashed his 2 swords and 3 sword skills at the palms that covered his sight. By attacking with the 2 sword skills, it defended against the shadowy palms coming in. This is a top-class martial art? Chun Muyin was shocked. He didn't think his palm attack would be blocked like this. This is... Chun Yowon was able to confirm that even if the formation was different, the sword movement was exactly the same as what was left on the blue pearl stone. The difference was that there were 24 sword movements on the stone, but the movement from 7 Demon Sword had fewer moves. There were only about 8 of them. And from what could be seen, it looked like the 7 Demon Sword had 12 sword movements in total. If it's the same movement as what was left on that stone, then... was it the sword demon who left the trace? It hadn't been proven yet, but that was very likely. As Chun Muyin and Yushuan fought for 10 formations, Yushuan had used all the 7 sword formations and shown all of the sword movements. Yet, it was so flexible that Chun Muyin's eyes turned cold. They were at a similar level of martial arts, but Yushuan had more experience and internal energy that allowed him to defend well. So, he is an instructor after all. He couldn't let it drag on, so Chun Muyin prepared himself with a different stance. His right hand went back and he pushed his left palm forward. His palm attack then turned in the opposite way as he attacked. Yushuan was shocked when he was attacked from another side. It was the same attack, but this time it came from the left hand, which made it hard for him to make the right adjustments. At that moment, Muyin's right hand suddenly appeared and struck Yushuan's shoulder. It was the sword Qi, wielded by Muyin's right hand. Woa! Cadets shouted in astonishment. It was the first group leader who had defeated the instructor, and he even showed the sword Qi that one would be able to use when they became a master martial artist. He doesn't disappoint. Li Hemming nodded above the stage. He has learned the martial arts of the first elder already. He is a genius. The first elder Mu Jin, one of the Wise clan, was known for using his both hands, which placed him as the second most powerful martial artist in the cult. Great, Yushuan said as he grabbed his right shoulder that was bleeding. Thank you, sir. Yushuan had confirmed the future lord's power and was satisfied. He then gave the yellow tag to Chun Muyin. You are now a group leader for the 3rd test. Chun Muyin bowed. Cadets shouted again, as they all were busy talking about Chun Muyin's power. Chun Yowon was looking at the yellow tag. Take that tag. It didn't seem simple. Is one person only allowed one tag? He was told that he could take the tag, but this seemed a bit weird. While Chun Yowon was being curious, Li Hemming got up and shouted, let's move on to the next fight. Oh, it's my turn. Chun Yowon got up and stood across Sang Munyo. His question for the yellow tag was set aside. What I do here will decide what will happen next. He had to prove himself in front of all the cadets. Sang Munyo thought it was interesting to see Chun Yowon, who wasn't tense at all. I thought he wouldn't even complete the first test. Chun Yowon exceeded the expectation of every instructor in the academy. His growth shocked everyone. But your journey ends here. Sang Munyo couldn't accept Chun Yowon as the candidate. The only ones he deemed worthy were Chun Muyin and Chun Yuchan. I will crush you, kid. Chapter 43, Defeat an Instructor, Part 3. Unlike the first fight, the cadets weren't as interested in the second fight since they all knew the difference of power between the two. He'll be lucky if he even lasts a few exchanges. Just because he got better. I think he's being too reckless. Cadets remembered Chun Yowon's power from the second test. He had shown top-quality martial arts and a fine blade skill, but that didn't seem like it was enough to fight against the instructor. You may begin. Both of them bowed. Chun Yowon then readied his butterfly blade dance. butterfly blade dance, Sang Mienio thought. After the second test, Li Hemming told every instructor that Right Guardian Submang had taught Chun Yowan his blade skill. They weren't sure why Submang had taught Chun Yowan, but Submang was known for being erratic, so it didn't matter. You are lucky to have learned that skill, but that's not enough. Come. I will allow you to attack first. Sang Mienio waved at Yowan, who then charged in. He's a master-level warrior. Let's do my best. Yowan was at the beginning of the master level, but his internal power didn't equal those experienced master-level warriors. Ha! Yowan's attack was unleashed more powerfully than what Sang Mienio expected. It's not like a few days ago. Mienio flinched and quickly brought his energy up to defend all the way to 70%, which was 20% up from his intended 50%. This will do. And Yowan's hand struck against him and Mienio was startled. Unlike his guess for Yowan to have 30 years worth of internal energy, the attack was too strong. Mienio was sent way back, stumbling 5 steps. He became embarrassed and blushed. What an embarrassment. All the cadets were shocked too. They thought Yowan would lose easily, but even the instructor who fought Mienio wasn't pushed back like that. Ugh, damn it. Sang Mienio then decided to do his best to overpower Yowan with all he had. As Sang Mienio unleashed his all of internal energy, Chun Yowan was thrown back. Yowan then took steps back, knowing that his enemy had unleashed all his energy. You think you can run? Sang Mienio then unleashed the 4th and 6th sword movements of the 7-demon sword. Take this. Cadets gasped in astonishment as they saw the powerful sword skill being unleashed. However, Yowan wasn't afraid. I can see it. He didn't have tutorial mode on, but he was able to see the weak point of the sword movement. It's not perfect yet. He had learned the original sword skill multiple times and the counter sword skill. This is nothing compared to the counter sword skill I saw on the stone. He could have countered this attack easily if he had used the original sword skill and the counter skill from the stone, but it wasn't time to show it here. If I'm not wrong. Yowan then charged against the instructor's sword. Sang Mienio scoffed at the sight. You are a fool. You cannot defend this with a mere attack. He thought he had won, but in the next moment, his eyes shook in shock. Chun Yowan used his basic blade movement to counter every single sword attack. What? Chun Yowan still had taken a bit of internal damage as he lacked internal energy, but this was enough to make everyone, even the cadets, surprised. Even Chun Mienio couldn't counter the attack perfectly like this. Ugh! Sang Mienio grimaced. He had now forgotten about the test. Then I will defeat you with internal energy. Sang Mienio then attacked with the 7th sword, thinking this was the only way he could defeat Chun Yowan. However, there was one thing he didn't expect. It was Nano, healing the internal damage taken from the hostile energy damaging the body. Chun Yowan's body was healed instantly moment he took damage. Blood dripped from his mouth, but he wasn't falling down, which made Sang Mienio pale. Why isn't he falling? Why? He had been pushing against Yowan with all of his power, but Yowan stood still. This made Sang Mienio panic and that gave Yowan a chance. Yowan then unleashed his blade attack against Mienio's right rib. No, I have to defend this. Mienio quickly sent internal energy to make a barrier within himself, but when Chun Yowan's hand struck, his rib cage was destroyed and he screamed in pain. Aararg! He was able to defend against the internal energy, but he couldn't do anything about the tremendous amount of physical strength. Ugh! He slumped down on the ground and looked below. He saw pieces of his rib bones poking out of his flesh and felt his sight fading away. You, a monster! Sang Mienio gasped and passed out. The cadets shouted with excitement as no one expected Yowan to win. So, Yumpa didn't overestimate him. This is dangerous, Chun Yuchan thought as he looked at Yowan. All of the other princes had the same thought. He countered the sword skill? Li Hemming, who was sitting down originally, was up on his feet as well. It was after he saw Yowan counter the sword skill. The 7-demon sword was made by the legendary sword demon, which was hard to counter. I really should have let that drunkard take him. This meant Yowan was the genius of the century. Hamming became envious of Submang, who took him in as his apprentice. Then someone shouted at Hamming. Chief! We have to move him to the medical room. His rib cage, it's broken and 3 of his ribs are protruding out of his body. Get him to the medical room now. As Li Hemming looked at him, he remembered the report given by the instructor who was in charge of the private training room. He destroyed the wall of the private training room. I think the 7th cadet is at the level of a master. What? He had forgotten to tell this to the instructors who just got back from vacation. If Sang Myneo had heard of this, he would not have been injured that badly. Oh well. Here, I got his tag for you. Oh. Impeng went up to Chun Yoan who was panting and gave him the yellow tag. Yoan bowed. Thank you, sir. I didn't have much expectations for you at first, but seeing you grow makes me have second thoughts. Good luck. Impeng then returned and Yoan smiled as he grabbed the yellow tag before returning to his 8th group. Master! Congratulations! Congratulations, leader! As he returned, Hubong and the 3 cadets came to congratulate him. There were also the 4 cadets who rejected his offer that looked sad. Damn it. But it was too late for regrets.